So I want to talk a little bit about materials and textures. So I have actually a folder called Material Library that I like to work with. I'm going to make a little folder in here, call it Test. And now inside it, I'm going to bring in a texture. Now most of the textures I have that I've been using lately are, they use the basic Unreal setup, right? And that's where you have your packed occlusion roughness metallic, you have a normal map, and you have a base color. But I have some older textures I like that I don't have all those for. And what if I wanted to use this texture? So I'm just going to drag this in to Unreal. Double click to open it up. All right, it's this sort of tile looking texture. All right, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and say material. I'm going to call it M underscore tile. And let's bring that in. So I'm going to adjust this so that we could kind of see the material sphere well, and I'm going to change it to be the box preview. And then let's go ahead and click on the texture. So the texture is currently selected. And so now when I right click and say texture, I want to find a new, or actually let's just come over here. I'm going to go to the palette on the side and just collapse all these. And I want to find something called, just keep collapsing, there's a lot in here. I'm looking for the T's. I could scroll down to it, but I just wanted to show you there's a lot in here. Keep going, almost there. Yeah, so many different things you could do. We're going to run out of space before we even collapse them. There we go, texture. So what I want is I'm going to bring in a texture sample. If I just click and bring that in, it already references my texture. You can see that over here in the details panel. And now it's going to build the shader. Oh, it's not going to do anything because I haven't plugged it in. So let's hit F. I gotta zoom out. Where's my, there it is. Somehow I lost, there we go. Okay, so let's take this texture and we're going to plug it in RGB and we're going to plug it into the base color. All right, there we go. Now it's going to build the shader cache. And there's my texture. It's coming in really bright. But there it is. All right, if I put it into, if I go into spherical mode, all right, we'll see there's the texture. It's kind of shiny, right? You see how the light is sort of shining out, and I don't want that. Now, I've seen students take this same base color and start plugging their different nodes into like this, right? The red's going to ambient occlusion, green's going to roughness, blue's going to metallic. That's actually not what we want to do, right? Because what happens when you do that is it's these channels, metallic, roughness, and ambient occlusion, they're only looking for black and white information, but they're looking for specific black and white information. Like blue should be anything that's metallic. Green should be anything that's white is going to be rough, right? Anything that's black is going to be perfectly smooth like glass. And that's why in the edges, in the dark areas, you're seeing this kind of very shiny look down there, right? And so you don't plug those textures, you don't plug those channels, do not get plugged in to the material. If you don't have a packed texture, you can still use what you have here, right? And one way to do that is to find this grouping called constants, and you want just the regular constant, right? Now you'll see constant, and then there's 2 vector, 3 vector, 4 vector. Constant 1 is a constant 1 vector. It's just one value. You can see over on the details panel, there's a value. We'll put that at 1. And we're just going to select that node and plug that into roughness. And now we're saying this entire thing is purely rough. Now let's bring in another one and leave it at 0 and plug that into metallic. You don't have to worry about ambient occlusion, and you don't have to have a normal. And we'll just right click on these guys and say convert to parameter, and this we'll call roughness. And this we're going to right click, convert to parameter, and that's plugged into metallic, so we'll call it metallic. And then this top one, we'll right click and we'll say convert to parameter, and we will call it base color. And now I can save that, and I can use that material. Let's see, do I want to apply changes? I'm going to say yes. Right. So now we parameterized it, and you should get in the habit of parameterizing all your materials just in case. Because if you happen to have another one that you want to plug in like that, another texture that kind of works in that fashion, you could go ahead and just bring it in. Right? Like let's say, for example, I happen to have another texture like this marble. All right, it's pretty, showed up pretty low res, but I could say, I'm going to copy its name. I'm going to say new material instance. I'm going to call it mi underscore marble spec. I put little prefixes so that I can search for them easier. Okay. Now I can select the parent and plug that into parent, and then now all I would need to do to adjust this is just update what texture it's looking at, and now I have that available to me. Okay, and so that's just working with textures where you only have a base color.